If an obese person completely stops eating, ensuring they have water and won't die of thirst, will they first become thin or will they die of starvation? Research shows that a normal human will die after about 7 days without food. Particularly obese people might survive a few extra days but definitely won't last more than 2 weeks. This means that in the final moments, our body would rather die than quickly shed fat, which might be quite frustrating for some. According to our most basic understanding, isn't all this body fat just stored food? Isn't it meant to be used up when we don't eat? Many animals survive winter without food by relying on stored fat. Yet, humans can die of starvation before significantly using up their fat. So why does our body store this fat if it becomes a source of frustration, burden, and even health risks? Primates can starve to death if they go a week without food, and humans feel extremely hungry if they skip just one meal. Imagine if we only had to eat once a month. It would simplify our lives and potentially eliminate severe famines in human history. This time, I studied human digestion and absorption issues thoroughly and found it quite interesting. We still need to view human differences through the lens of natural selection and evolution to understand our relationship with nature better and find healthier, more harmonious lifestyles. For about 10,000 generations, our ancestors were anxious about calorie scarcity. Human consciousness can change quickly, but our bodies cannot keep up with such drastic changes in living conditions. Our bodies are designed to adapt to calorie-scarce environments. Understanding this helps us appreciate how much our bodies cherish what they consider hard-earned fat. Our bodies never make a losing trade when it comes to using calories. First, in terms of fat storage, we're not much different from other animals. When we eat, digestive enzymes and various microbes in the small intestine break down carbohydrates into simple sugars like glucose, fats into fatty acids and glycerol, and proteins into amino acids. These substances pass through the intestinal wall into the bloodstream, flowing throughout the body to the cells that need them. However, cells cannot immediately use all the nutrients, so these nutrients accumulate in the blood, which can oxidize and deposit, clogging blood vessels over time. Excess sugars first combine into glycogen, stored in the liver and muscles. When glycogen storage is full, any remaining sugars, fatty acids, glycerol, and amino acids enter the liver. The body's chemical factory processes these substances into fat, then transports the fat to fat cells throughout the body via the bloodstream. This is how we gain fat. Because of the liver's powerful conversion capabilities, all major nutrients that the intestines can digest, including amino acids, can be converted into triglycerides or fat. So, no matter what we eat, we can get fat. However, more complex animals share the same fat storage functions, but the difference between us and animals lies in fat utilization. When various cells in the body need energy, they can directly absorb and use glucose, fatty acids, and glycerol in the blood. These substances are sent to the mitochondria to produce ATP, which is used in various cellular activities. So, when we stop eating, these energy substances in the blood are consumed by the cells, and their concentrations gradually decrease, such as blood sugar. If we exercise while starving, we rapidly consume the energy in the blood, leading to low blood sugar. Why do people faint when they have low blood sugar? It's like the body suddenly loses power, and the brain is forced to shut down. When the body detects low blood sugar, the liver breaks down specific enzymes to convert glycogen into glucose and release it into the blood. At this point, the fat still hasn't been used. Generally, fully stored liver glycogen can maintain blood sugar balance for nearly 24 hours if the person is not exercising much. So, if you suddenly go a whole day without eating, liver glycogen can handle it, and the fat remains mostly untouched. Will your inhibitory and digestive systems let you starve for 24 hours? Hunger is controlled by the hypothalamus. The signal for the consciousness to feel hunger is based on the production of ghrelin in the stomach. Once the stomach finishes digesting all food, ghrelin starts releasing through the bloodstream to the entire body. When the concentration of this hormone reaches a certain threshold, the hypothalamus makes the consciousness feel uncomfortable and produces the urge to eat. The human body is complex, and the rate of hormone production is not constant. Body conditions, mental state, and other hormone interactions influence the release rate and effect of this hormone. But typically, the threshold concentration of this hormone is reached after about 5 hours of fasting. This hunger sensation can be unrelated to whether the body's energy is sufficient, possibly linked to how long the stomach has been empty. If you continue to not eat, the concentration of this hormone will increase, continuously tormenting your hypothalamus, which in turn will torment your consciousness, urging you to eat. If you exert extraordinary willpower and endure a whole day without eating, can your body start to consume a lot of fat? Not really. It takes about 72 hours, or 3 days, to completely deplete glycogen. After a day of starvation, glycogen release is insufficient to maintain blood sugar balance, and the body starts compensating. Fat cells finally begin releasing lipase. However, another compensatory method had already begun, reducing the body's metabolic rate, including gradually reducing muscle mass. I thought our body, when starving, would strictly consume glycogen, then fat and finally muscle protein in order to provide energy. But from what I've learned and my personal experience, many steps actually happen concurrently, just to different degrees at different stages. In my previous fasting experience, about 2/5 of the weight I lost was protein. Fat wasn't significantly reduced, but muscle began to waste away. The evolutionary logic here is that if a person is in a long-term state of starvation, it likely means the survival environment has worsened. The body enters energy-saving mode, directly reducing consumption and activity to preserve precious energy, and during the long period of scarcity. Since muscle cells consume a lot of energy, and breaking down muscle protein can also provide energy, a small portion of muscle is broken down during starvation to increase energy supply. What does reduced basal metabolic rate mean? Basal metabolism refers to the energy consumed by a person in a resting state without activity. Where does this energy consumption go in a resting state? It goes to our most basic life activities: breathing, digestion, immune function, heartbeat, information transmission, nerve regulation, etc. Reduced basal metabolism means less energy supply for these activities, causing these functions to degrade to some extent, especially impacting the immune system. Long-term starvation leads to continuous metabolic reduction, making the person increasingly weak. At this point, fat is still considered a strategic reserve for famine periods, not being used in large quantities quickly. The body doesn't know that this prolonged hunger is my brain's foolish attempt to lose fat intentionally. Meanwhile, ghrelin keeps increasingly stimulating the hypothalamus, making the consciousness feel that eating would be extremely pleasurable. Consequently, relying on hunger for weight loss will quickly backfire. When your consciousness can't take it anymore, and you start binge eating, with a metabolism rate still very low, the consumed food won't be burned much, leaving more excess energy to be stored as fat again. Thus, after ending a pure starvation diet, not only does the body quickly rebound, but the person also becomes prone to gaining weight easily. So, let's go to an extreme. If an obese person's consciousness endures all this, and goes without eating for 3 days, what happens? At this point, glycogen is almost completely depleted, and fat starts to be consumed in large quantities. However, the brain, heart, and lungs have already adjusted to a low-energy state due to previous starvation and multiple instances of hypoglycemia. As a result, the person is in a semi-comatose state. At this time, rapidly breaking down a lot of fat causes a serious problem. Fat is broken down into glycerol and fatty acids, but the body, being in an energy-saving state, doesn't utilize the energy quickly enough. This causes glycerol and fatty acids in the blood to be converted into ketones. Of course, under normal conditions, the body can effectively use ketones as an energy source. But if ketones become too abundant in the body all at once, the blood ketone levels will rise. At this point, the body, trying to cope with the imagined famine by being frugal, leads to ketoacidosis. You will feel nauseous, but since you haven't eaten anything, you can't vomit. Gradually, you'll feel short of breath, and your consciousness will become increasingly blurred. After another day or two, the body, which must obtain 9 essential amino acids from external sources, will start to run short. The body's operation requires not only energy but also proteins as materials. Lacking necessary raw materials, the work of protein production in cells becomes increasingly impaired. After another 2 days, vitamin deficiencies will appear, causing pustules and ulcers in the mouth lining and uncontrollable emotional depression. Finally, various systems in the body collapse due to poisoning and material scarcity. The person dies from starvation without significantly using up their fat reserves. At this point, a question arises. Many animals can go 10 days, half a month, or even a year without eating. How do they do it? First, their bodies can adjust to using fat in a non-eating state, and the function of fat is very stable. So, as long as they have stored fat, they can live leisurely without much pressure on their consciousness. Due to the stable and precise use of fat, their bodies do not produce many toxins. However, this does not explain the problem of other nutrient deficiencies. From the previous human example, even if there's enough fat, amino acids and vitamins are still needed. I recall that most animals can synthesize their vitamins. For example, their livers can directly process glucose into vitamin C, and the liver can also convert fat into glucose, which means fat can eventually become vitamin C. However, humans have lost this important vitamin C synthesis function. Then I wondered if these animals could synthesize various substances from fat. For example, there are 9 essential amino acids for the human body, while there are 20 amino acids in the world. The so-called 9 essential amino acids do not mean the other amino acids are dispensable for humans. The body cannot function without any one of these amino acids. The other 11 non-essential amino acids can be synthesized in our body's chemical factory, the liver, to supply the body's needs. Hence, they are considered non-essential. It seems the liver is quite amazing. So, I wondered if these long-term fasting animals could directly convert stored fat into the necessary amino acids. However, all the information I found showed that almost all animals share the same essential amino acids, the 9 types. This likely dates back to when animals and plants first began to evolve separately. These 9 amino acids can be abundantly synthesized by plants and microbes, so animals just need to eat them. Other nutrients that might not be easily obtained from nature can be synthesized with effort. So, these essential amino acids still need to be ingested. So, why can't humans withstand the lack of amino acids, while these animals can? If they can't produce them themselves, they must rely on eating. Do they store amino acids like they store fat? After researching this, I realized I had overcomplicated the problem. In the beginning, I mentioned a significant issue I faced: starving, losing weight, and losing muscle. These animals also lose muscle when starving, even more severely than humans. Just like fat is stored for energy, they also use muscle as an amino acid reserve. These animals eat a lot when they can. For example, polar bears and crocodiles can consume 1/5 of their body weight in one meal, equivalent to us eating about 70 hamburgers in one sitting. Even more impressive, snakes can consume food equal to their body weight in extreme conditions. Some large pythons can swallow an entire adult deer. To do this, a snake's jaw can dislocate easily. After eating and digesting, They store a large amount of energy as fat, and the amino acids from digestion are directly converted into muscle proteins stored in the muscles. This is very different from humans. For humans to build muscle, they need exercise stimulation. However, many animals can grow muscle just by eating enough protein. When they go long periods without food, these animals directly break down muscle to obtain the amino acids they previously digested. These amino acids are used as raw materials to recombine into the proteins necessary for the animal's survival. In humans, muscle protein is only digested after a long period of starvation, and the process is very inefficient. The amino acids are mostly converted into glucose for energy rather than being used to produce crucial proteins, so humans become malnourished and protein deficient after starving for just a few days. As for other nutrients like vitamins, these animals can not only produce them themselves but also recycle them efficiently. Vitamins are merely catalysts, not consumed, but can be lost. These animals can recycle these elements efficiently, while humans have mostly weakened or lost these functions during evolution. This is why even an obese person can die of starvation. It seems humans have somehow devolved. Compared to other animals, we must ensure a stable, small, frequent intake of food to survive properly. This was difficult in prehistoric times, and even now we constantly worry about what to eat every day. Imagine eating 70 hamburgers in one sitting and not needing to eat for a year. How convenient would that be? However, evolution has its logic. If humans could eat a large amount of food at once, and then spend the next half year lying under a tree sunbathing, like crocodiles floating in the river pretending to be a log, humans would likely become lifeless beasts. It is because humans have a need for a stable source of livelihood that natural selection has given us a unique sense of anxiety. This anxiety drives humans to not only react instinctively to immediate hunger and safety but also worry about a stable future. This leads to exploration, labor, invention, and creation, continuing to this day. Of course, random genetic mutations and natural selection cannot foresee the future. The decrease in basal metabolism due to unstable food sources, which weakens bodily functions, is even more severe in those animals. Their basal metabolism drops to extremely low levels, affecting their bodily functions and consuming their lifespan. The direction of human evolution is driven by continuous anxiety and hunger, prompting the consciousness to seek stable food sources to maintain the most vigorous vitality. This is a different evolutionary direction. The human pursuit of stability forced the brain to evolve functions for long-term thinking. The pressure to survive rapidly increased brain capacity, which further increased energy consumption. To save energy and reduce the burden, many nutrient synthesis functions were cut, the digestive tract shortened, and the mechanism for recycling vitamins was lost. The body shifted all the pressure to the brain, making it find more refined, nutritious, and stably supplied food. Thus, humans feel hungry and anxious even when their bodies have sufficient food. Anxiety drives the brain to work and solve scarcity problems. Humans have become the most anxious, least happy, and least satisfied animals. No matter how full they are, they always think about the next meal. No matter how much money they make, it's never enough. So, given all this, what lifestyle habits are considered healthy? We still have to align with natural selection's design for our bodies. In my series on human evolution, I mentioned that millions of years ago humans evolved to become the only animals in the world capable of running marathons. While humans aren't great at sprinting, they are the best at endurance running. This ability evolved to exhaust prey by persistent pursuit. Therefore, people who engage in long-term aerobic exercise will increase their metabolic rate, enhance physical fitness, and burn a lot of fat while also building muscle. Why doesn't the body cherish fat during exercise? Because the body knows you are active and might soon catch up with abundant nutrition and energy It uses energy reserves to make this investment. The body calculates this balance. However, there is a deeper health question to consider. The ultimate goal of natural selection is the stable replication of genetic information. This also relates to the topic of immortality discussed earlier. Survival and reproduction can sometimes be contradictory. For instance, if a person always eats well, the body might conclude that the living environment is prosperous, and thus the tasks of reproduction and genetic information transfer are likely completed. Therefore, the body stops fully repairing itself, accelerating aging and death to leave resources for the next generation. However, in a state of hunger, the body assumes the survival chances of the offspring are low. It enters survival mode to ensure the individual's health as much as possible, surviving through the period of food scarcity, and then completing the reproductive tasks. Moderate hunger drives the body to repair itself and digest severely damaged and aged cells, a process known as autophagy, keeping the body youthful. Autophagy is also triggered by the sensation of hunger, but one must not overdo it. My previous method of eating only one meal a day has significant issues. Therefore, eat every meal but maintain a level of 70% fullness. Combine this with moderate, consistent, long-term, low-intensity exercise. This not only reduces excess fat but also keeps the body healthy, youthful, and increases lifespan. But is it bearable to not eat fully and to exercise? I think you can encourage yourself by reframing the sensations of hunger and muscle fatigue. These are merely nerve impulses sent to the brain. Try not to associate these signals with pain. They are just electrical impulses perceived by the brain and do not directly represent pain. These signals are the body's call for more vigorous vitality. Do not resent these nerve signals. Instead, feel them, sense your vitality, and gradually, you will enjoy this feeling. After all, without life, there would be no sensations. Try to be the master of your own body. Do not be dragged into the unhealthy abyss by primal desires that no longer fit modern life. Escaping the drive of these primal desires is the greatest freedom one can achieve. As for the significance of staying healthy, I still hold that life inherently has no meaning. However, in this rapidly changing era, missing out on a few years could mean missing unimaginable transformations in the world and ourselves. This concludes this episode's exploration into a peculiar question that suddenly came to mind. I found it quite interesting, and I hope everyone can also find some time for idle thoughts and exploration amid their busy lives. Perhaps the opportunity to break free from life's constraints lies within these seemingly endless ponderings. That's it for this episode. If you liked our content, please subscribe to our channel for more exciting content.